Hello, my name is Eric Turman. I'm a student of computer science at Oregon State University. Recently, I went through and researched the efficiency of penetration testing, or pen tests. For the developers in the audience, that means testing during software design, while this means putting the application frameworks and networks to the test for the system administrators. Now, for my purposes, when I talk about penetration testing, I am referencing the type of test that involves simulating a malicious attack against software for the developers or networks for the administrators. Our world is filled with various malware and hackers who seek to destroy the hardware you put into these systems. Penetration testing seeks to show you where the exploits are to then be patched or fixed. However, there are a couple problems that arise when we try to test this way and stand in the way of its effectiveness. First is communication. It is commonplace for testers to explain the exploits as a specific problem and not as solutions. These ideas come from Kenneth Van Wyk, who has been penetration testing for years and sees language as a major problem to testing. Wyk brings up the example of an SQL injection. Stated as just a problem, the developers might just disallow a very specific SQL query. He contrasts this with, instead, explaining the injection as mutable entries, and going on to give a prepared statement as an example of a fix. This highlights a very real problem, explaining the results in the form of a solution, not just a problem. Though, this does bring up that your testers also have to know a bit about development. As some of you know, this is not the most common of occurrences. One alternative way to get around this is if you have the report as extensive as possible. That way your development team can analyze the results as necessary. This also helps with finding the root of the problem when a network is breached. Remember, testers are just as important as developers and essential to any system success. The next problem we will cover is in the implementation of pen tests. This is not so much how it is used, but more who does it. The three main parties that can do a penetration test are the development team, an internal testing team, and an external testing team or company. They each have their own pros and cons. I will be focusing on a few that Andy Good presents. For example, the development team knows a lot about the product and its inner workings. Unfortunately, they are also the people who need to keep working, and they often do not have the experience a dedicated tester will. An internal testing team is good because they can test early and often, can talk to the development team easily, and they are objective to the code. On the other hand, these testers are far and few between and expensive, and if certification is necessary, then the company would be self-certifying, which would not be good. Finally, external testers have a large amount of experience most of the time, and are very objective, and they can certify products. Yet, it is the costliest and tends to have the least amount of communication with the development team. There is another argument against penetration testing overall, and that concerns intellectual property. With the first two groups of testers, there's no worry about a loss of IP because they are both employed by the company producing this product. Therefore, they can do a white box or transparent test. Whereas, an outside source may have to sign non-disclosure agreements if they want to see the code. There is another option, and that is making it black or gray box, taking away their ability to see inside the program and just attack it from the outside. Properly executed, a black box test can be just as effective as a white box. Don't think I've forgotten about our system administrators. A lot of these ideas still hold true, but instead of a development team, it's your operations team. There is also less chance that your company will have a dedicated security team for this process, but it is easier to be objective if you haven't written the code. So, your operations team should be just as good as a dedicated testing team, albeit with a little bit less experience. The final problem that may arise is in patching the vulnerabilities shown by the pen tests. This is a very big deal for our system administrators. You have to keep the systems up to date. Applications are a major point of intrusion for malicious characters, only matched by the operating system itself. However, developers aren't free from the responsibility. Who do you think puts those patches out? I'd like to bring up some research done by Imperva that should be a little scary. The research was compiling data from their penetration tests, in particular their retests. First, the fact that all retests that were performed with a long period between tests reveal vulnerabilities that were already uncovered by the first penetration test. That's a pretty big deal. The interesting thing about this is in 60% of the retests, they had already fixed the problem, but it was reintroduced during later updates. This might be a problem of communication, as brought up earlier, or it's in the company's testing or design process. To mitigate these risks, Imperva advises that an organization must incorporate into their networks true application security solutions, since any changes should be considered at risk. So, for the system administrators, put in place security for your applications. For developers, see if penetration testing can be done every development cycle. Now, naturally, you're going to be told why penetration testing just isn't feasible or a good idea by those in charge. Quell their fears by pointing out a couple of points. If cost is the issue that your boss challenges you with, look into automated solutions, such as those offered by Core Security, because though they won't be extensive as a human tester, they can be executed often. As mentioned before, intellectual property is always contentious, and a reply I offer is using black or gray box if it is out of house. Since, if you are in-house, everyone should be allowed to see code, but even if they aren't, then black box testing can be used. After all, if they can't see it, then they can't steal it. Now, I'm going to leave you today with some ideas for deciding when it is necessary to use penetration testing. First up, is your software or network handling sensitive user information? This one is a no-brainer. We can't have privilege escalation when passwords can be lost. Next, does your software or network control mission-critical systems? If downtime is absolutely inaccessible, then can you risk something malicious taking it out for even a second? Third, is your software or network in direct contact with a critical system? As in, can an outside source get access to an area that can cause damage or steal data if they get through you? Finally, is your job in danger, or will the software or network be losing robustness if you don't do the pen tests? This question is for you to answer for yourself, as for some they don't have the time or capability to go that extra mile. Right now, there are groups who don't think testing is as important as actual development. But when servers are taken down, or applications are broken to steal credit card information, then how can anyone deny the use of adequate testing? Thank you for your time, and I hope this has helped some in their security decisions.